We're back up. Oh joy. Yeah, cellular electromagnetic signals. Basically TV, radio, cellular, whatever, are affected by water. And it rained last night, covered the antenna in water. It was covered in it. So I basically climbed up a ladder on the top of a tree, shook the hell out of an antenna, let all the water drop off, and I think we're back up. Yay. It's just 2 steps forward. It's more like 3 steps forward, 2 steps back. Frustrating. Anywho, where the hell were we? Oh yeah, the Royal Guard. Hopefully that'll be it. You guys still with me at least? Alright. I'll try and carry on as if you were until you prove otherwise. Now let's scroll up for a bit. And saving the best for last, I shall now explain to you all the greatness of the Royal Guard. How humble of you. I know, right? Like you might be able to tell from the name, our main duty is the protection of the castle and its surrounding area, which mostly consists of you guys just standing around waiting for your shifts to end. Hey, don't go slandering our good name like that. The Royal Guard being mostly idle is a sign that things are peaceful enough to actually allow that, and that's a good thing. And when shit actually does go down, we're right before the Knights when it comes to who gets called in to help out in a crisis. You know, because we're the best. So you keep saying. Only because it's the truth. And as befitting of the best branch, Royal Guard membership is almost exclusively drawn from the recommendations of the higher-ups of the other Guard branches, Army, or even Knights. It is possible to join directly from civilian status, but if you want to do that, then you're stuck completing a bunch of physical tests that are so awful that most people don't find it worth suffering through. But that's how you got in. Yeah, and I don't recommend it. Alright. So, that's all 3 Guard branches covered. City, Border, and Royal. And with that, it's time for us to say goodbye. Until we meet again. Hey. Alrighty. Let's go to Guard ranks. Let's start out with this one, I guess. Ooh. Another subject that's directly relevant to my interests. I'd say that it's because of blatant favoritism, but that much was obvious from the start. Yeah, the author has blatant favoritism in outside of the story. Inside the story, it's still there, but not like other stories. Or it's just the favorite is obviously the favorite. He does justice to everybody else. Exposition dump. Yeah. Would you like? I can skip this and go back to the story. Alright. Hey, you're the only one complaining. That's just because it's only the 2 of us here. You know you enjoy this. Please. Anyways, how about starting us off? The sooner we do that, the sooner this will be over with. Might as well. For simplicity's sake, all 3 of Grantch's Guard branches share the same ranking designations. The lowest of these is Private, which is where every recruit starts at without exception. That's right. And like you might expect with the people at the very bottom, they get bossed around and not much else. Next is the rank of Lieutenant, which recruits get promoted to after they've been serving for a while. Most of the time, the majority of Guard membership consists of these guys. Most of the time? Yeah, except in the event of a flood of new recruits, the loss of a large number of lieutenants. Never those things have happened during our lifetimes, though. Oh. And when a lieutenant's finally proven that they're good enough or kiss enough ass or whatever, they get promoted to the rank of vice captain. As second from the top, this rank comes with a ton of extra responsibility. Like what? It depends on the captain they're serving under, but in general, they're expected to directly assist in managing everything that goes on in the entire division. Sounds rough. Like I said, it depends on the captain. Some of them just dump all the work that they're supposed to do on their vice captains, while others only rely on them just enough to keep from being overloaded themselves. I guess this means that it's time to go over your current rank now. Guess it is. A captain such as yours truly is the sole person in charge of their division of guardsmen, and since there's a limited number of these divisions to go around, promotions to this rank don't happen all that often. This goes extra in the case of the border guard, since they don't have any internal division. That entire branch has a single captain who's in charge of the whole thing. Why is that, anyways? It's just one of those things where it ended up that way a long time ago, and nobody ever bothered to change it. Figures. So, getting back to the rank itself, you're saying the only way to get promoted is if someone else vacates the position first? That's exactly it. The only possible exception to this is if the king himself personally orders the creation of an entirely new division. Huh. When's the last time that happened? You know what? I have no idea. But whenever there is an opening, someone will be nominated from the pool of current vice captains of the branch, and then its serving captains will sort out whether or not that nominee actually deserves it. What happens if there's more than one eligible nominee? In that case, they're all expected to fight it out to see who actually gets the promotion. Oh, so that's why you had such a rough time of it. Unfortunately. In my case, most of the other captains were totally fine with me being the only candidate. But of course, there just had to be a couple of jealous assholes who didn't like the idea of someone as young as I am rising to the top as fast as I did. So they nominated their own candidate to try and block you from getting there? Yeah, and I wiped the floor with him and got promoted anyways. 'Cause I'm just that good. What? You might have won the fight, but I wouldn't call it wiping the floor with them when you came out of it with a collapsed lung. Oh. The collapsed lung wasn't from the other nominee. That came after. Huh? Yeah. Like, right after I won the promotion battle, the captain who nominated my opponent accused me of fighting dirty and challenged me to a duel. And even though he was considered the strongest person in the entire Royal Guard at the time, and the next obvious candidate for knighthood, I accepted his challenge without thinking. And then he beat you half to death. Meh, he came out of it even worse than I did. What? What, you didn't hear me the first time? I might have ended up with 5 broken ribs and a collapsed lung, but he's the one who was forced to submit in the end. Wait, so you... How do you think I earned the right to call myself the strongest captain in the first place? I can't believe you. Alright. That'll be it for the interludes. We'll start on with the next day then. At this moment, my only desire is to melt into this wonderfully soft mattress and just sleep the day away. Such is the level of my comfort. But sadly, I do have a job to do. Reluctantly forcing my eyes open, I roll out of bed and stumble on over to the window. After taking a few minutes for the cool morning air to fully wake me up, I move on to my luxurious personal bathroom for a shower. A nice, long shower with actual hot water, and no loud households banging on the door or stomping around just outside it or fighting or yelling at me to hurry up. Instead, the only thing I hear is the sound of the water hitting the tub. I know I've said it before, but castle life is great. Once I'm all dried off, I throw on a clean uniform, fasten my sword to my belt, and make one final check to ensure that I'm presentable. Yep, good to go. Time to start the day. First choice of day 2? I think it is. Or would this be day 3? I can't remember. But explore the castle, look around for someone I know. 1 or 2. Which one will it be? And again, the choices are not currently overly important. Go ahead and do whatever flight you fancy. Explore the castle. Alrighty then. Here we go. Since it's not like I have anything better to do, I guess I should get some more castle exploration in while I have the chance. And now that I'm thinking about it, this is the perfect time to make use of those plans that Gerhard was nice enough to lend me last night. Yep, they're right where I left them. That's a relief. With that particular bout of paranoia having passed, I pick up the folded paper rectangle, carefully open it up, and then spread the whole thing out on my bed. Whoa, this is really detailed. Unlike the usual guide to everything type maps that I'm used to seeing, but what Gerhard lent me is more like, I don't know, blueprints? The placement of each room in the castle is clearly listed, as well as details on where load-bearing walls are, the location of service-use shortcuts. It's kind of overwhelming to take in all at once. And I bet this thing would be really dangerous if the wrong people were to get their hands on it. Which is even more reason to be extra careful about keeping it out of sight when I'm not using it. And Gerhard just casually walks around with it in his pocket. Yep, absolutely. According to this, there are 2 major passageways that connect to this part of the castle. I think I'll start with one of those. And like I said, this has a lot of choices. Take the east passageway that leads to the servants' quarters. Take the north passageway that leads to the armory. 1 or 2. And I haven't personally seen all of the routes, but I know mostly what they should be like. So, if my memory serves right, let's see if one to maids, yes, I believe that's where the maids go. I believe the armory would have had you talking to Arnaud, I believe, is the one. If I'm reading this thing right, the east passageway should lead to the servants' quarters. I haven't actually been there yet, but now is as good a time as any to change that. Alright, time to get moving. Taking extra care not to damage the paper, I gently lift the castle plans off my bed and fold them back into the neat little square that I received them in. Or at least, I attempt to. It's a lot harder to pull off than I initially thought. There. It took plenty of trial and error, but in the end, my map folding was a success. After returning it to its hiding place inside my desk, I head on out into the hallway. As I draw closer to my destination, the elaborate decor of the castle hallway seems to gradually shift towards the plainer side of things. Not to say that it isn't still really nice, but there is a noticeable drop in the overall number of framed paintings, statues, and other such decorations when compared to the rest of the castle. And in sharp contrast to that, the amount of foot traffic in this area is the highest I've seen since starting this job, which in turn is making me even more self-conscious about the fact that I'm being given such a wide berth. It's almost like they're afraid to get too close. In the middle of the sea of servants, I spot a familiar figure walking away from me. Even though I can only see her back from where I'm standing, the combination of her small stature and that hairstyle of hers has me fairly certain as to her identity. Hey, Melanie. Startled by my sudden greeting, Melanie practically falls over. Luckily, she manages to catch herself before she ends up crashing into anyone. I probably should have just walked over to her and said hi instead. Mr. Reinhold. Good morning. With an embarrassed smile on her face, she waves me over. Sorry for spooking you like that. No, it's fine. It's my own fault for daydreaming while walking. Seeing her blame herself like this only serves to make me feel even guiltier. If I might ask, what brings you to the servants' quarters? Did you get lost on the way to somewhere else? Nope, I'm exploring. And I also happen to know exactly where I am, thank you very much. I see. I get the distinct impression that she doesn't take my castle exploration as seriously as exploration seriously at all. Well, rather than wandering around this hectic place by yourself, would you like to tag along with me for the time being? Since I happen to be in the middle of running back and forth trying to get everything ready for the day, it would be a more practical way for you to get acquainted with this area of the castle. Sounds like an idea? That's alright, I don't want to bother you. I keep pointing out options. And the author, being the crazed lunatic he is planning to have all the options lead to unique stuff. One. Sounds like an idea. I'd actually be totally fine with that. Are you sure that it wouldn't be too much trouble for you? I mean, you said that you're busy and... Oh, it's not a bother at all. I wouldn't have suggested it if I was. She waves her hand as if shooing away my doubts. And to be perfectly honest, actually having some company while I tend my morning round would be a nice change of pace. But there's like servants everywhere. With a number of other people in this hallway, there's no lack of company. Maybe so, but I wouldn't really count it as socialization. At this time of the day, my only real interactions with them consists of me telling them to get back to work. Melanie idly glances at a pocket watch. And I suppose I really ought to do that myself. So, will you be accompanying me, Mr. Reinhold? Right behind you. Maid's exploration is greater than castle exploration, huh? Well, already. But yeah, like I was saying, the author, let's see if I can count out all of it for a sec. There's at least 9 routes to go down, and the author wants to type out and come up with all of them. And I was reading on the page the other day, the demo page that he's got up. Apparently, the original work, the original story, without any alternate routes, was close to about 1 million words long. So, if you're interested in the story, it'll be a long one coming. Anyway. While taking care not to get in the way, I follow Melanie as she goes about her morning rounds, making last-minute accommodations to the other servants' work schedules, confirming that the princess's breakfast will be prepared on time, diffusing an argument between 2 butlers. I'm starting to feel exhausted just watching her. But surprisingly enough, she herself isn't even fazed by her workload. While her usual smile may disappear while she's giving out orders, her face doesn't betray even the slightest hint of fatigue. I have no idea how she does it. Just as I'm starting to get a handle on the hectic pace of things around here, a maid breaks through the crowd and comes racing right towards us. Melanie, after taking a few seconds to catch her breath, she resumes talking. The carriage preparations... I'm not the one in charge of that. Go ask Mr. Arnaud. I'm so sorry. I'll go find him right away. The maid shoots me a puzzled look. Was there some reason why you're with the princess's new bodyguard today? There is, but I think you have more pressing matters to worry about at the moment. Right? Yes, of course. With her face completely drained of color, the maid hurries away from the 2 of us as fast as she can. I guess Melanie's a lot more intimidating than her petite size suggests. I mean, that maid just now looked to be in her mid-20s and... Mr. Reinhold, is there something the matter? Come to think of it, I was just kind of wondering how old you are, that's all. I'm 15 years old, same as the princess. Why do you ask? No reason, just curious. Yep, just like the puppy bossing around a pack of wolves. As Melanie goes about knocking on doors and directing the other maids where to go, we end up making a full loop around this entire wing of the castle. And a little while into this, we stop in front of a bedroom that's slightly removed from the others. Would you mind waiting here for a moment? I'll be right back. You gotta go wake someone up? Oh no, that's not it. She giggles at my mistaken assumption. This is actually my room. I'll be right back after I fetch a set of clothes that I was mending. Oh. Of course, she wouldn't want to let a guy who she just met into her room. Why not? And just as I get myself comfortable, leaning against the wall, she emerges from her room carrying a small bundle of clothes. See? Right in and out. You definitely weren't kidding about that. Just from the colors, I can tell that it isn't a maid or butler uniform. Are those someone's personal clothes? Something like that, I suppose. You suppose? Like I said, it's something along those lines. You'll find out soon enough, so just try to be patient, okay? Since it's clear that she isn't about to give me any more info than she already has, I just give up and follow after her as she continues her rounds. As we walk, Melanie makes the occasional stop to bark orders at some confused-looking servants along the way. But soon enough, our route brings us back into the main area of the castle. I have to admit that it's a relief to be in a familiar territory again. Relatively speaking, of course. So, is this how your mornings usually are? Oh, no, was I running around too much for you? No, not at all. It took some getting used to at first. Following after Melanie was a walk in the park compared to what I had to deal with back in the army. I was talking more about how you were ordering all the other servants around. It seems kind of exhausting to have to do all that every single morning. Yes, well, it's part of my duties as the acting head maid. First, I make sure that the other servants are all set with their work, then I help the princess get ready for the day. And then, after you meet up with her at the dining hall, I go and tidy up your room. It sounds like a lot of work. Oh, it's not as bad as it seems. After I've taken care of your room, there's a rather large gap in the day where I don't have anything in particular that I have to do. That's when I typically get in my me time. Well, that's good to hear. She certainly deserves it. But now I have to head upstairs, so this is where we part ways. Since I don't think the princess would appreciate you coming up with me. Oh. Yeah. She'd probably kill me if I tried. Well, it was nice tagging along with you, Melanie. And it was nice having you, Mr. Reinhold. I'll see you in a bit. With a cheery smile on her face, Melanie waves goodbye to me and hurries up a nearby stairwell. I guess I have some more free time on my own left. Instead of trying to explore somewhere new and risk getting lost along the way, I just retread the areas of the castle that I've already visited over the past 2 days. And when it feels like it's about time to do so, I head on down to the dining hall. Huh. Looks like I got here just in time. Right when I get situated, Princess Marianne and her usual morning entourage of maids come in from the other end of the hallway. Well, that's certainly different. Instead of one of the fancier dresses, which I'd assume were her usual attire, she's wearing an outfit that I'd more expect to see on a lesser noble or, I don't know, a normal rich girl. Not to say that she doesn't look great in it, but it is kind of surprising to see her like this after 2 days of the more traditional stuff. So it is day 3. Good morning, Princess. I see that you've managed to be punctual today as well. Do try and make it a habit of it. Well, it's clear that she's her usual charming self this morning. I guess the only actual change was in her appearance. Considering that it is a very nice hallway to be waiting in, I doubt I'll have too much trouble with that. Ugh. While the princess clutches her forehead like I just gave her a headache, the maids around her all break into a giggling fit. But when she raises that same hand into the air, they all immediately go silent. You're annoyingly sarcastic this morning. Though I suppose I must concede that suffering through your antics is still preferable to having to deal with Sir Gregory's eternally foul mood. I choose to take that as a compliment. Permission to ask a question, Your Highness? That itself is a question, but very well. Well, is there some special reason why you're dressed so casually today? She looks genuinely taken off guard by my question for a split second, but regains her usual composure just as quickly. I'm surprised that you actually noticed. Well, observation is important to my job, so... Of course it is. If you must know, today's attire was selected in order to facilitate the day's activities. Oh? Even you should be able to imagine the amount of unwanted attention that I would draw were I to openly roam the streets of Anthea, yes? Well, yeah, but... Wait, what? The capital? Yes, that is where I will be spending the day. Which is why I have taken measures to alter my clothing and hairstyle so that passers-by would be less likely to recognize me. And naturally, you will be expected to accompany me as well. I see. Just as I get used to a schedule, she switches everything up. So, where is it that we'll be going? Like I just said, the capital, as in outside the castle. You've only been here for 3 days. Surely you haven't already forgotten the outside world. I walked right into that one. I was trying to ask where exactly in the town we're going to be going. Oh, I know exactly what you meant. Come, we can continue this conversation at the table. As dismissive as ever, she turns her back to me and heads on into the dining hall. I don't know if she acts like this because she likes to mess with me personally, or if it's just how she is, but... never mind. Inside the dining hall, I find myself forced to wait for the princess's maids to finish talking to her and clear away the table before I'm even able to reach it. And she pretty much ignores me until I've taken my seat. To answer your previous question, you will be accompanying me to a shopping district in the center of the city. Though it's not the most popular area amongst the nobility, I suspect that it's still more upscale than you would be accustomed to. Of course she couldn't resist getting that little barb in. This name is Princess Guard Quest. It's currently in demo version. It's currently in development. You can check it out on itch.io, Princess Guard Quest, if you want to take a shot at it. And I suppose that you'll also be relieved to know that my father is aware of my plans for today and has ordered that the number of on-duty guards in the city be increased accordingly. Do you consider that a satisfactory explanation of what we'll be doing today? I guess so. Good. So long as you stay out of the way while doing your job, the day should go by smoothly. Just then, the butler arrives in the dining hall with a food cart. Practically from the second he steps through the doorway, the aroma of the food wafting from under the lids of the 2 trays that it's transporting dispels any mystery about what today's breakfast is. Pancakes. And as he lifts up the steam-filled cover from the plate of food that I've been presented with, it takes all my self-control to keep from giving in to my instincts and consuming the entire stack as fast as I can. Yeah, currently it's a little makeshift at the moment, but this is only on Mondays. Princess Guard is on Mondays. It's a demo. It's not overly long, so it won't last out the other games. Then we'll go back to Danganronpa Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Wineko Thursday, Friday. That's the current setup. And I have Monday as the new tryout shit experimental day, and this is the current experiment we're going on. But when I start to feel myself starting to slip, I glance over at the prim and proper princess, and then recall what little I was able to pick up from yesterday's etiquette class. While these pancakes here certainly look and smell delicious, I'd rather not have her thinking that I'm completely uncultured. I still have the Twitch stuff labeled differently, don't I? I gotta go fix that. It's getting hard to keep track of where all the stuff I have to change. It probably still says something like sewing, huh? Oh. I'll sort it out. I'll get things ready better. We'll figure it out. While these pancakes here certainly look and smell delicious, I'd rather not have her thinking that I'm completely uncultured. Actual deserved insults from her are the last thing I need. Which is why I hold myself back as best I can and eat my breakfast at a slightly slower pace than usual. It goes without saying that even this much is very difficult. After we finished with our food, Melanie and a few of the other maids who the princess was talking to entered the dining hall. Once they reach the table, she gets up from her seat to greet them. I can't say that I'm really paying much attention to the conversation, but I do notice the way she's smiling while she talks to them. She must really be looking forward to this trip into town. Ask the princess about today's trip. Keep my mouth shut for now. Choice 1 or 2? Of course it goes in the wrong pipe. And yeah, this one I'm running with viewer options. I've already read the original story, so I know mainly where this stuff goes. Choice number 2 then. Keep my mouth shut for now. While I would like to ask the princess some more about this impromptu trip, I'd also like for this good mood of hers to last as long as possible. And that is... bear with me. And that is why I shall keep my mouth shut until she decides to address me directly. It really would be... Damn it. It really would be nice to finally get out of this stuffy castle for a change. It's been over a month since I was last able to do so. Oh, I know exactly how you feel. One of the maids begins giggling. To finally be able to go shopping after so long. I guess you should warn the butlers that they'll have some heavy lifting to do when they return. Those poor boys. While all the maids surrounding her join in the merriment, the princess simply smirks and shakes her head. Not at all. I only plan on making a few stops, and you know full well that I'm not the type to purchase massive amounts of clothing that I'll never even have an opportunity to wear. I really wish you would. It's always a treat to see you in different outfits, princess. I have to agree. Oh, definitely. And now they're all murmuring in agreement. I fully understand their sentiment, though I'm not stupid enough to actually say that out loud. No point in wooing the princess when you want to date her maids, huh? Alright, this one's up to you guys. Speaking of which, you're looking especially cute today. Thank you. But all the real credit should go to Melanie. She's the one who spent all that time mending this outfit, after all. Eh? I was only doing my job, princess. And an excellent job it was. Wait. Those clothes that Melanie brought out of her room earlier, they were what the princess is wearing right now? Man, I want to smack myself for taking so long to notice. Must have been distracted by the shock of seeing her in an actual good mood. She's got a really pretty smile, and it's an absolute shame that she's always... Ah, there it is. That scowl that I've grown so accustomed to. Did you need something, princess? I would like to set some ground rules before we leave. Okay. While we are out, you are to refer to me by the name Marie, and avoid using titles or honorifics. While the owners of most of the establishments that we'll be going to do happen to be aware of my identity, there's no telling who else will be in the stores with us. Will do, princess. Ugh. After sighing for what seems the 100th time today, she glances over at the still waiting maids. Melanie, would you mind assisting me with something? Not at all. Breaking off from the others, Melanie scurries over to us as fast as her short legs can carry her. I take it that you've met Melanie? Yeah, Yes, we're acquainted. Mr. Reinhold was actually accompanying me this morning, just before I came to your room, princess. I don't know. Got a cough, I guess. Is that so? The princess hits me with a piercing stare for a few seconds, but soon returns to her usual dismissive gaze. Then I suppose that should make this easier. So what did you need my help with, Your Highness? Well, the princess rolls her eyes at me. As you know, I'm going into town today, and his job happens to require him to remain at my side. Of course. However, there's the matter of his current attire. Huh? I looked down at my clothes to make sure that I didn't get any crumbs or syrup on myself while I was eating. Nope, nothing. I can't say I understand what the problem is. She places a hand to her chest. You see how I'm dressed in order to blend in with the general populace of the city? Oh. No, I get it. Going out there with her in my bodyguard uniform would kind of completely ruin that. But, the only other clothes I have right now are a couple of spare army uniforms. In the 5 years since I enlisted, I never really had much of a need to wear anything else. Yes, I expected as much. And that's where Melanie comes in. Do you think you could find something for him to wear while we're out? Because this is not going to work. Certainly. Melanie bows to the princess and then walks up to me. Your size? After walking a complete circle around me, she snaps her fingers. No, this shouldn't be a problem at all. Wonderful. Mr. Reinhold, would you mind meeting me up at your room? I'll be right there once I fetch a change of clothes for you. Eh? But the princess... I'll be fine staying here in the dining hall while you get changed. I was able to come down here without you, after all. If you say so. Since she absolutely insists, I guess it should be okay to leave her down here for at least a little while. I'll try not to hold you up for too long, Mr. Reinhold. Thanks. Bowing again, Melanie hurries off to get me a change of clothes. And since I don't want to keep anyone waiting, I make a beeline for my room immediately afterwards. For the sake of both my job and the princess's mood, I don't want to waste any more time up here than I have to. As such, I get right to unfastening my sword from my belt and emptying the contents of my pockets ahead of time. That must be Melanie. Miss Reinhold, are you... Well, she lets out a little squeak as I open the door. Here's your change of clothes. Thanks. I'll be right outside the door while you change, so don't hesitate to say it if they don't fit properly. With that, she hands me the clothes and returns to the hallway. Huh. Not bad. The outfit that Melanie brought me consists of a jacket, matching pair of pants, and a plain white shirt. Pretty much the same basic type of clothing as what I was just wearing, but in a different style. And much to my relief, it all fits more or less perfectly. Nice and roomy without being overly baggy, with plenty of pockets for everything that I usually carry with me. It might be kind of plain as far as looks go, but the quality of fabric that it's all composed of is easily comparable to that of my uniform. So basically, even an impromptu change of clothes in the castle far outclasses anything that I've ever worn prior to coming here. After transferring the stuff that I dumped on my desk back into my pockets and returning my sword to my belt, I rejoined Melanie out in the hallway. It looks very nice on you, Mr. Reinhold. Thanks. She seems really pleased with the clothes she picked out for me. How does it fit? Perfectly. Thank goodness. I was worried that I'd have to find something else for you to wear. But since that won't be necessary, let's hurry back downstairs before the princess starts to get impatient. I was thinking the exact same thing. And so we head back as fast as we can. Right when we get back to the dining hall, the princess gets up from her seat and looks me over. Nice work, Melanie. He's actually presentable. Thanks. It's more due to Melanie's choice in attire than anything that you did, so it's not as if you have anything to be proud of yourself. Ouch. Well, I'm always happy to help. Melanie smiles at me like she's trying to apologize for the princess's overall unpleasantness. Pardon me. Oh, it's Arnaud. Princess, your carriage is ready. No, you can't. Not yet. That's why it's a demo. The save file probably should transfer over if we need it to. If you would like, I can keep the save file going for when the main game comes out, but that'll be a long time coming. Thank you, Arnaud. After nodding to Melanie, the princess motions for me to follow her out of the room. After a few minutes of walking, we find ourselves at the side gate of the castle where a behemoth-drawn carriage is ready and waiting for us. And, in keeping with the incognito nature of this little excursion, the carriage itself isn't anywhere near as fancy as someone might expect to see in a place like the castle. But I will say that it's a far sight nicer than the one that brought me here. While I'm busy checking out the model of transport, Arnott opens the door to the carriage and motions for us to enter. After the princess is safely inside, I follow her in and close the door behind me. Have a safe trip. And with those words, our excursion officially begins. Make conversation while we travel, keep quiet and enjoy the scenery. One or two. But yeah, it's a demo, currently only 6 days in, and I think we have like probably about a month or so of in-game play. One, make conversation while we travel. Alright. Thank you. The notifications are working. Cool. Should still be working. Alright. Man, this carriage really is something else. And such a smooth ride that I can barely even feel it moving, and the noise is completely negligible to boot. It's a far cry from the one that brought me to the castle 3 days ago. Though that later part is probably related to the fact that I'm seated inside the cab instead of with the driver this time around. Something tells me that the young lady sitting across from me wouldn't consider doing that in a million years. Whoops. We haven't even reached the city yet, and I almost messed it up. Marie? What is it? She doesn't even bother to turn away from the window. I was just wondering if you've ever run into trouble on one of these trips before. Trouble? That seems to get her attention. I've never been directly involved in any, if that's what you're asking. There was one occasion where I was unfortunate enough to witness a drunken brawl that spilled out into the street. That's probably the worst thing that I've ever encountered. I see. I can't even begin to imagine how she reacted to that. But in general, these trips tend to go rather smoothly. That's good to hear. I do my part in not advertising who I am, so all you need to do is watch out for the unexpected. Was that the only thing you wanted to ask about? Yeah, pretty much. Very well. After about a half hour of riding, the carriage comes to such a gradual stop that I barely even notice it. We have arrived. Thanks. After hopping out of the carriage and helping the princess down like a proper gentleman should, I take the opportunity to survey the area. Whoa. Building after building after building, as far as the eye can see. It's been so long since I visited the capital that I almost forgot just how tiny this place can make you feel. And unlike the shabby thatched roof shacks that filled the town where I grew up, these things are made of brick and mortar and with a clear aesthetic intent behind their construction. While I'm busy gawking, the princess addresses the driver. Thank you. We'll be fine from here. Very well, Miss Marie. And what time would you like to be picked up? She thinks it over for a few seconds. Perhaps an hour or so before sunset. I have no intention of remaining here after dark. As you wish. Tipping his hat to her, the driver returns to the carriage. And as he does so, the princess shifts her attention to me. Let's get going. I dislike wasting time. Just lead the way, Marie. Marianne was not exaggerating when she said this place was a high-class shopping district. We've only been walking around for a few minutes now, and we've already passed by more than a few ladies who could even put Pauline to shame when it comes to how fancy they're dressed. If it wasn't for that whole trying not to be recognized thing, the princess could have easily come out here in her usual attire and fit in just fine. And I guess she wasn't exaggerating about knowing the area either. She's navigating these streets with the same level of familiarity as someone who's lived here for their entire life, and her walking pace is so quick that I'm actually forced to make an active effort to keep up with her. I'm starting to feel kind of bad for doubting her. We're here. Stopping in front of a large building, the princess turns around and gestures towards it. This is the bookstore that I mentioned earlier. I glance at the sign hanging above the building's front entrance. Marchamp's Literary Emporium? Yes, that is its name. And now she's looking at me like she's expecting me to... Oh, sorry. Putting on my best fake smile, I hurry to the door and open it for her. But not before looking inside to first make sure that everything's on the level. Thankfully, I don't even see any customers inside the place. Once she's inside the store, I proceed in after her. Ah, if it isn't little Marie. Heading straight for the back of the store, the princess stops at a counter where an old man wearing a thick pair of glasses is sitting. Let me guess, you heard about our new stock? Yes, and I made my way here as soon as I was able. Well, you're always welcome to... you're always a welcome face around here. And then he glances over at me. Can't say that I recognize this gentleman here, though. Is he your new bodyguard? Introduce myself? Let Marie introduce me. A lot of minor choices in this story. Don't quite know why he went this route, but he did. Some of these options, honestly, are just, do you want to hear more of them talk about this or that? Whatever. Alright, introduce myself. Yeah, that's right. Well, it's nice to meet you, son. The old man reaches across his counter to shake my hand. I'm Marchamp, the owner of this fine establishment. Nice to meet you, Mr. Marchamp. I'm Reinhold. Reinhold, eh? He gives me a quick once-over while adjusting his glasses. You do seem kind of soft at first glance, but that look in your eyes tells me that you're no stranger to fighting. That alone should be enough to dissuade the average ne'er-do-well from starting anything with Marie. Thanks? But there's one very important piece of criteria that'll determine whether or not you're truly suited to look after my favorite customer here. Huh? Is he talking about fighting skill? So tell me, son. He leans over the counter. Are you an avid reader? What? Not really? That's too bad. Admitting that while standing here in the middle of a bookstore fills me with the worst feeling of shame, and his reaction to my response only adds to it. Well, I guess it's up to you to do something about that then, Marie. With a sly grin on his face, Mr. Marchamp winks at the princess. Ugh, please. This guy might be pretty old, but he's definitely got plenty of life left in him. Once he's finally had enough fun teasing Marie, Mr. Marchamp gets up from his seat behind the counter. Since I'm sure you have plenty of other things to do today, I suppose we ought to get to business already. Yes, please. The princess follows him over to a corner of the bookstore, where they then begin to chat about the latest arrivals. Leave them to the books I have guarding to do. Listen in on the conversation. I'll just do this one for you. You must be dying to hear about what's been published since your last visit. I am indeed. Huh. I wasn't expecting to actually respond in earnest. But I shan't keep you waiting. Mr. Marchamp traces his fingers across the spines of several books in the shelf that he's standing by before finally stopping at one in particular. After removing it from the shelf and giving its cover a quick glance, he hands it to the princess. What's this? It's a story about a man's struggle to find happiness after losing everything in the aftermath of a war. It's really gripping stuff. This author, Tatsuhiko? Is that a pen name, or is he actually from... The old man simply nods. Eastern novel, Eastern author. The book in your hands is a draconic translation, though. Wow, you even get stock from that far away? The princess glares at me like I just asked the dumbest question ever. This is the best bookstore in the capital, if not in all of Grenache. Of course it would carry books from foreign countries. I don't know if this place is the best, but I do at least try. Mr. Marchamp seems to be every bit as surprised by Marie's bold assertion as I am. Finding translations of Eastern books used to be far more difficult, but the recent boom in popularity in Marseille made things a lot easier as of late. You have suppliers there? Not directly, but we are along the same trade route. So, when shipments come into Marcinetti's port from across the Severian Sea, it's not much trouble to ask my usual sources to send some extras down my way when they get them in. I see. As long as you're able to receive new stock. After about an hour of chatting with Mr. Marchamp and browsing his store's selection, the princess returns to the counter and hands him a small stack of books. Oh, so this is all you wanted for now? Considering how long it's been since your last visit, I was expecting you to be picking up at least twice the amount you have here. Yes, well, my prolonged absence was due to certain extenuating circumstances which have since been dealt with for the most part. She breathed a heavy sigh. And since I was hoping to time my next excursion with the exhaustion of my reading material... Ah, I get it. Buying less now will give you an excuse to come back sooner. Exactly. This elicits a good chuckle from the old shopkeep. You always were a clever one. This is just me being selfish. Well, let me get these all rung up for you so you can be on your way. Actually, she glances back at me. Since I doubt that my bodyguard would enjoy carrying these around for the rest of the day, I'll be picking them up on my way back. Thanks for the consideration, Marie. I simply didn't want to have to listen to the inevitable grumbling that would result from it, that's all. Don't get ahead of yourself. My mistake. Now, Marie. You really should be more honest. Please. I'm just saying. Anyways, I'll keep these safe and sound for you until you get back. Thank you. As we start towards the exit, I turn back to the old shopkeep. It was nice meeting you, Mr. Marchamp. Likewise. Do make sure to take good care of Marie, you hear? Just because you asked, I'll be extra careful with her from here on out. As the old man bursts into laughter, the two of us make our way back to the entrance. It comes as no surprise that Marie is rolling her eyes at me the entire way there. Please, someone help! The second we step outside, a woman's shrill cry cuts through the air. Stop that boy before he gets away! On full alert, I search for the source of the shouting, only to find a blur racing down the street. Right towards us. Unfastening the sword clasp from my belt as I go, I dash out in front of the princess. Marie, get back! Every muscle in my body goes tense as I trace the figure's path, and the instant he comes within range, I spring into action. Tightly gripping my scabbard, I catch it against one of his legs and pull upwards with all my strength. Huh? Right as he's launched into the air, I dart out at my other arm and grab him by the collar of his shirt. Then I pull him back towards me and slam him hard into the pavement. It isn't until I have him safely pinned down that my mind clears enough for me to actually get a good look at this would-be assailant. It's just a kid. And he's maybe 12 years old, if that. With his eyes filled with fear, he looks up at me while clutching an expensive-looking purse. I almost feel guilty for roughing him up like this. Almost. Marie? I glance back at the princess, who I find backed against the door to the bookstore that we just left. You're not hurt, are you? She slowly shakes her head. No, I'm fine. Thank God. Oh yeah, I still have my hand around this kid's throat. After making sure that I haven't accidentally strangled him to death, I hold him in place with my knee and proceed to pry the purse he stole free from his clammy grip. What in the hell were you thinking? Do you have any idea how easy it would have been for me to end your life just now? If Sutherland's purse really worth dying for? Though I feel the urge to keep on screaming at this kid, I quickly stow that sentiment when I spot some guards racing towards us. Further behind them is a woman in a fancy dress desperately trying to keep up. I'm going to guess that she's the owner of the stolen purse. We'll take it from here, son. Thanks for your help. No problem. With my role in this having finished, I stand back up and brush myself off before refastening my scabbard back onto my belt. Once everything's back in place, I hand the reclaimed purse back to its owner. Here you go, ma'am. Oh, thank you so much. After the requisite words of gratitude and thanks and all that, I begin to notice more and more onlookers starting to get curious about what just happened here. And considering that one of the main points of this trip was to stay out of the public eye, I think it's about time that we made ourselves scarce. Well, Marie, I guess the situation here has been more or less resolved. But since we're still burning daylight here, how about we head out? She still looks pretty shaken up, so I'm trying my best to be friendlier than usual. Yes, let's. Before ferrying the princess away from the crowing crowd, I turn back to the guards and wave goodbye to them. One of them even salutes me in response. I wonder if he recognizes us. As we walk along, the princess eventually regains her confidence and retakes the lead position. Guiding us to a small cafe, she takes a seat at a table in its outdoor patio section and motions for me to join her. Back there, avoiding eye contact, she looks down at the table. You didn't get hurt during all of that, did you? It was all so sudden, I had no idea what to do. Don't worry about me, I'm fine. And to prove my point, I hold out my hands and show them to her. See? Not a scratch on me. I'll take your word for it. But while the princess might be worried about me, my own concern is somewhere else. But, you wouldn't happen to know what the penalty for theft is, would you? Why? I'd feel kind of awful if it just caused some kid to lose his hand is all. I see. I've participated in enough raids on bandit dens back in the army to know that the penalty for outright banditry is death, but the more mundane offenses like purse snatching are far outside my area of experience. After all, there's no way in hell that the official penalties for crimes here are the same as my hometown's unwritten policy of leave it up to the one who caught them. At least, I hope it isn't. Assuming that this is the first recorded offense, that thief you caught is most likely to be flogged. As you caught him in the act and successfully returned the stolen purse to its owner, I can't see them adding any additional penalties for damages or anything of that sort. I guess that doesn't seem so bad. Grand scheme of things. Before we can get any deeper into the subject, a waitress approaches the table to take the princess's order. Barely a minute passes before she returns with a large kettle in tow. After letting it rest on the table, she places a cup and saucer in front of the princess. And then she does the same for me? I didn't actually order any. I'm not so rude as to expect you to just watch me drink while having nothing yourself. Oh. Thanks? It looks like she's back to her usual self. Ask her how she's holding up. Enjoy the tea in peace. Choices. But yeah. This was a Kickstarter thing as well. He raised, 20 grand? 10 or 20 grand to get this. I think we even earned enough to get him a animated intro as well when the final thing is all finished. I'm not entirely sure how all this is coming along. It's kind of been something I keep track of every so often. But yeah, it's pretty in-depth. Enjoy the tea in peace. The tea here is pretty good, though it's not quite on the same level as the stuff that Arnaud brings us in the castle. I can definitely see why people would pay good money for it. Tea is king, apparently. Not really in America. In America, it's mostly just coffee and, soda. That's pretty much the main stuff here. That's probably why we're all so obese in most cases. Yeah. And with just the one kettle split between the two of us, it doesn't last very long. After leaving the cafe, we spend the next few hours visiting quite a few different clothing stores. But since that's not the kind of thing that holds my interest in any way, all of my attention during this time is focused towards looking out for trouble instead. And luckily, it's pretty uneventful on both the danger and the shopping fronts. Not bad guys for me to beat up, and no bags for me to carry. I think I consider this a net win. What? Something smells good. Like, mouth-wateringly so. But where's it coming from? If you don't mind... Oh, sorry. I got so caught up in that delicious aroma that I didn't even notice that we've stopped in front of the building. And considering that there's a sign just above the door that says Wilhelm Bakery, this must be the last stop that she mentioned before. The second I open the door for her, the source of the aroma becomes as plain as day. For I am now surrounded by bread. Loaves of bread, buns of bread, donuts and cakes and crullers and croissants and every bread-like substance that I can think of are all here in one place. But I'm still technically here on business, not to gawk at all the things that I've been suddenly struck with the urge to devour. So, coming back to my senses, I direct my gaze at the princess as she practically runs towards the store counter, and the extremely pregnant woman who is standing behind it. Marie! It's been so long. How have you been? The same as ever, Mrs. Wilhelm. But what about you? She points at the baker's stomach. Should a woman in your condition really be tending the shop alone like this? What if something were to happen while your husband is out? The pregnant woman waves her hand as if to dismiss the princess's concerns, as if something like that would be enough to keep Elias Wilhelm away from her bakery. So, did you come all the way out here just to check on me? I can't deny that was part of it, but... My. Giggling, the pregnant baker points at me. And just who is this handsome gentleman that you've brought here to my bakery, Marie? Don't tell me. The real reason you came by was to show off your new beau? Respond? Let Marie respond. Choices. But yeah. Yeah, this was the Kickstarted game. And there's even a few backer characters that were introduced into the story, or at least have spots in this narrative. I actually hit that rank, but declined to put anybody in there. I just let it be what it is. I'd like to see the game finished at some point. Respond. Did you just say beau? No way, I'm just her new bodyguard. Really? You're just her bodyguard? Yes, that's all. Boo. That's no fun. Though I can't help but notice how nervous you seem to be, Mr. Allegedly Just a Bodyguard. Hell yes, I'm nervous when you go around making jokes like that. Could it possibly be that you do harbor some secret feelings for your charge, and my silly joking is what just caused them to finally surface? What? Why is she making jokes like this when the princess is standing right there and she looks like she's seconds from throttling me? Not at all. I rapidly shake my head. We've got a strictly professional relationship and nothing more than that. How boring. And now she's pouting like a kid who was just scolded. Elias Wilhelm might be married, pregnant, and the proprietor of her own business, but it seems like she's still every bit as mischievous as a young girl. Anyways, weren't you supposed to be due last week? I was rather hoping to see an actual baby today. Yes, well, he's decided to camp out in there and isn't coming out until he's good and ready. With a tired sigh, she pats her pregnant stomach. I'll make sure that you're the first to know when he's born, though. Thank you. I'd appreciate that. Now, to get back to business, I'm assuming you want the usual? Yes, please. While Mrs. Wilhelm goes about preparing the order, I follow the princess over to a nearby table. What is it? She glances at me from across the table. Just thinking that this is the first one for me, is all. In what way? We're just sitting here. Yeah, but I've never sat down inside a bakery before. What, so this is your first time visiting one? I shake my head. No, picking up enough bread for everyone used to be the first thing I did every morning when I was little. But up until today, I'd never seen a bakery that actually had a space inside the shop where customers could sit down and eat. It's pretty nice. What the hell did I do this time? You're serious? Yes? In the plethora of bakeries that I've visited in the last 4 different countries, not once have I ever come across one that didn't at least have some seating room provided. Where in the world could you have been to have only ever encountered the opposite? Catino? All I can do is shrug. Catino? You mean that tiny village by the border with Paragon? Yes? And there it is. The inevitable reaction of disgust that occurs whenever I mention that place to someone who's actually aware of its existence. Wait, are you from there? Born and raised, unfortunately. I see. Wait a minute. That's not disgust. It's guilt. This is the second time today that I find myself apologizing for making untoward assumptions about you. That village is the shame of our kingdom, and it's a wonder that you're... She suddenly catches herself. Sorry again, I wasn't trying to insult. It's fine. I do my best to laugh away the sudden swell of tension. Catino might be my hometown, but I've never had any love for it. So don't let me keep you from saying whatever you want about that place. It won't hurt my feelings any. Hell, one of my favorite things to do when I was little was fantasize about burning the entire village to the ground. Murray, what's this about hurting people's feelings? Are you bullying the poor bodyguard? Nobody's bullying anyone. I love catching you off guard. You react just like a cute little kitty cat. Leave. Paying no mind to the princess's volatile temper, Mrs. Wilhelm presents her with a plate covered with cookies and cupcakes. Here you go. Thank you. With a heavy sigh, she accepts the plate from the pregnant baker and places it on the table. I've got the rest of your order ready too, so don't forget to pick it up before you go. Mrs. Wilhelm points to a white cardboard box that's sitting on the counter. I bet you've been looking forward to this all day, haven't you? You have no idea. If you have any, I'd also like a dozen donuts. You can give them to him. Eh? Oh, really? Treating him to a dessert, I take it? Well, they do say that animals need positive reinforcement from time to time. Mrs. Wilhelm laughs at the princess's remark like it's the funniest thing she's ever heard. But as for me, well, if I'm supposed to be a trained animal, then I might as well play the part. Woof. That look of utter disbelief on their faces makes it all worth it. Oh my god. Alright, this one is definitely a keeper. Laughing way harder than I ever expected her to, Mrs. Wilhelm leans on the table to support herself. Oh, my stomach. It hurts to breathe. Oh, crap. Since this sudden laughing fit was entirely my fault, I hurry over to help her back up. Sorry, I didn't expect you to find it that funny. Yeah. It takes a little while for Mrs. Wilhelm to finally catch her breath. Alright, I'm fine. You sure? Because I can help you to a seat if you want. Really, it's okay. Now let me get you those donuts. And by the way, they're on the house. I don't think that I did anything worthy of a reward, but I guess Miss Wilhelm really appreciates a good laugh. While she makes her way back to the counter, I glance at the princess, who seems even less happy with me than usual. I suggest that you be more careful about what kind of jokes you make around pregnant women in the future. Yeah. I definitely didn't think that one through. Obviously not. And just as I finished apologizing, Mrs. Wilhelm comes back with a dozen donuts in tow. Here you go, Mr. Handsome Comedian. Thanks. No, thank you. I haven't laughed like that in years. She then returns the receipt behind the counter, but not before winking at me. And since that somehow only serves to make me feel even guiltier, I think that now it's time for some comfort food. Picking up a donut, I examine the tasty-looking glazed patry before chomping down on it. I haven't had donuts since before I joined the army nearly 5 years ago, but I think that this actually tastes better than my childhood memory of them. With my hunger stoked, I quickly devour another, and another. I know that I'm probably going to get an earful later for inhaling an entire box of donuts like this, but I just can't help myself. Mrs. Wilhelm, these donuts are amazing. I know that it's rude to talk with my mouth full, but the time for manners has long since passed. Well, I'm glad you like them. My eating pace being what it is, I end up finishing the last of my dozen donuts just as the princess finishes off her second cupcake. But instead of insulting me, she simply shakes her head in disapproval of my poor manners while gazing out the window. I mentioned it before, but this is the last of the places that I wanted to go to today. But since there is still some daylight to burn before our carriage returns, I would be willing to make a detour or two if there was anywhere that you were interested in stopping by. Wait, what? Is she asking me where to go next? I really appreciate the offer, but I'm not familiar with this part of town at all. So even if there was somewhere that I might want to check out, I wouldn't even begin to know where it was. Oh. She actually seems disappointed. I suppose that it's better that you said this up front, as opposed to causing us to wander around aimlessly. In that case, we might as well just head straight to the bookstore and wait there until the carriage arrives. After finishing off the rest of her cookies, the princess walks over to the counter to pay for her box of pastries. And then she hands said box to me. Naturally, you'll be carrying the luggage. Of course. And so we say goodbye to Mrs. Wilhelm and leave the bakery. I think that might actually be a decent spot to stop for today. Nice little cut-off point. There's still more left in the day, but a bit more than just a few minutes. And that's the shopping day. Our third day guarding the princesses into town. Made a pregnant woman laugh so hard she almost went into labor. That was actually in the thread when we were going through the original story. We made up the joke woof, and then we voted on it, and then it was an unexpected a custom entry for the what do you want to do, just go woof. And there's a few elements that'll pop in like that, and I'll try and point them out if I can remember which ones they are. But yeah, and one of the next ones is one of the next stores we go to that was picked out by the thread as well. It said, okay, what does Reinhold buy? All right, let's go with this. And so the author went and took the things we did and used that to determine Reinhold's default character. And instead of having that option later in the game, like if you wanted to go do this or that, that was the default, and that's what canonically happens, which is an interesting way to go about it. But anyway, that is it for today. Sorry about that disconnect at the beginning. Would have been nice to not have to do that, but such is life. Anyway, have a good one. Take care. Hope you enjoyed.